you hear that music and you know it's time to talk Syracuse football. There's the alma mater, and we've got a very special guest today as we go inside enemy territory. We're scouting the UConn Huskies, and let me welcome into the program the play-by-play voice of the Huskies. It's the one, the only Mike Crispino. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Hey, what's going on?
Good to be talking football with you. UConn got off to a nice start. They won their first game, and very emphatically. Let's start there.
Yeah, they played Central Connecticut, which is an FCS opponent. So, let's not get too carried away. But they did put some points up on the board. They showed some things defensively that I think are going to be positives going forward. In the recent past, UConn has, struggled mightily up till Jim Mora got there. They were one of the worst football teams in America on a lot of levels, and they had trouble with FCS opponents. So they've come a long way in the 3 years plus that he has been in charge. And I thought that was another example of it. They took care of business. They led 35-10 at halftime, and they ended up scoring 59 points, putting up over 600 yards. It's what you have to do against that kind of opponent. Now, this week's going to be way different, I'm sure, but it gives them confidence coming north to play the Orange.
And today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Play It Again Sports. We'll hear a little bit more from our friends at Play It Again in just a little bit. I mean, look, UConn is coming off a really solid year, and I want to get into talking about their coach, Jim Mora, and his impact on this program. I think he's now in his fourth season at UConn, but let's just talk about where this program has evolved under Mora. Let's start there.
Well, he came in. It was a surprise to all of us that he took the job. You wondered why, because he was working at ESPN. He seemed to be happy. He seemed to be doing a good job there. But obviously, coaching's in his blood, and he didn't want to, he wanted to go back to coaching. So it kind of worked out. And I know he took a flyer because this program was dead and buried 5 years ago. And you take on that kind of job, and it's a major challenge. He's been able to overcome a lot. He's been able to recruit to a place that hadn't had good history. They had about 10 poor years in a row. And I think he's been able to do it because of his NFL background. I hear more players, at practice, after practice, games, everything, the recruiting process saying, this is a coach that understands what it takes to play in the NFL. He's been there. He's been a head coach there. He's been an assistant there. So he understands the mechanics of all of it. And I think the players feel confident that he will, guide them in a direction that'll give them a shot at it anyway. And, football and every sport that we cover is all about opportunities and dreams and trying to reach out and grab the highest rung. And I find that the football players that have come to UConn in the last 3-4 years are those kind of players. A lot of them have come from Division IIs, places like Gardner-Webb, Grand Valley State, places that you haven't heard of as football places. But also, there have been some Big Ten players, guys from Wisconsin, Michigan, Purdue, that have come to UConn because they weren't playing in those big programs. So they've had a combination of talent coming in that has really enabled the coaching staff to elevate what UConn's done on the field. I mean, obviously, you have to have players, but you also have to have coaches who can get the most out of your players, who can, elevate them, can coach them up, so to speak. And I think, Jim Mora, Gordy Samus is their offensive coordinator, who's an offensive line coach and a very good one on a different level. And he came to UConn and he put together offensive lines in his first 2 years that were excellent. And then he switched over to the offensive coordinator job. We didn't know what would happen. He'd never done it before, but he's a really smart football coach, and he's figuring it out pretty well. He's in his second year doing that. And then Matt Brock, the defensive coordinator, came from Mississippi State, and Mississippi State, traditionally struggled in the SEC. Who doesn't? But Matt has been able to bring some of his stylings and his intelligence and his background to UConn's defense, and that has been a huge advantage for them. They have stepped it up on the defensive side and become more than respectable. So it's a combination. It's Jim Mora, it's his background, who he's worked for. I mean, he's worked for Dick Vermeil, his father, Jim Mora Sr. He's been a head coach in Atlanta and Seattle and the NFL. All that stuff adds up, and he's a good person too. And he's got genuine desire to help young athletes. And I think a lot of football coaches talk this way, but my experience with him in the 3+ years is he's just a very genuine guy. And that stuff, you can't fool the players. The players know if you're not genuine and you're not being honest with them, they figure it out. And that's when you have your problems. He's been able to convince these guys that this is the way to go. I mean, UConn football, you should probably want to be going to 50 other schools instead of UConn. But Jim Mora has been able to convince guys, if you come here, you can develop your football career and your life as a career in life. And that's how you have to start this stuff. And he's done a great job.
Yeah, no question. He's a pro's pro. I mean, it's an interesting combination. Was there any thread, Mike? Was there any connection directly between Jim Mora and the University of Connecticut? Or was this just Jim Mora wanting to teach young people?
No, I don't think there was a real connection. David Benedict, the athletic director, sought him out and went to Idaho, where he has a home out there, and spent a week with him just talking, college football, UConn football, coaching. And I think they got to know each other on a certain level where David Benedict, the athletic director, had a confidence that Jim Mora had what it took to come to UConn and basically start over. I mean, you're starting at ground zero. The program had been, laughably out of it for a bunch of years under Randy Edsall the second time around. And so, you're Jim Mora, you're looking at that, and you have to take that on. And it's not that easy to figure out how are we going to get from there to here. And they've come a long way in the 3+ years. And I think they've got more room to grow. I really do. But you got to start, say, this weekend. You're playing Syracuse. You're in their backyard. They've beaten you every time they played you. They're a regional foe. This is a big game for UConn.
All right, before we get into breaking down this game and talking about some of these UConn players, let me ask you about last season. I mean, UConn ends up 9-4 on the season. They go to a bowl game, and they beat an ACC team. They beat North Carolina, who now are the Bill Belichick North Carolina squad. So talk about that, the Fenway Wasabi Bowl up there, and a win for Connecticut in a bowl game, and Jim Mora notching his second bowl game in the few seasons that he's been there.
They lost the Myrtle Beach Bowl his first year to Marshall, and Marshall had been to several bowl games. They're a kind of a mid-major football program, but a good one. And Marshall had a great day that day. UConn did not. They were going with a freshman quarterback, and it didn't work out. But the difference a couple years later was they had North Carolina, who was in disarray. Their football coach, Mac Brown, had been let go a couple weeks prior to the bowl game. Fred Kitchens had taken over, one of the assistants, as the head man. A number of players had bolted and weren't playing in the game. So UConn took advantage of North Carolina being in a weakened situation, weakened position. But UConn played an excellent game. They put a good show on. I think that was a nice feather in their cap to beat an ACC team, regardless of whether North Carolina was 100% full strength. And so I think that, they're at that point now that I think their goal should be get to a bowl game every year. Right now, they're an independent. It's Notre Dame and them. That's it in the whole country. So they got to make waves with whatever schedule they have and whoever they play, and try to get to the postseason on some level and keep doing that. Because if they keep doing that, we've already noticed in the last year and a half that players respond to that. They say, wait a minute, this is a program on the rise. They have an NFL coach. They have a coach that's gotten guys to the NFL. They've got a coach that's gotten them to bowl games, winning records. And all of a sudden, it's amazing how quickly the players, change directions and follow the leader, so to speak. And once that started happening, last year, UConn had 25 transfers, 20 of them played and contributed big time. So if they can do that every year, with the recruiting they're doing on the freshman levels, then they're going to be very competitive going forward.
All right, let's get in and break down some of the players. We are going inside enemy territory here at Syracuse and UConn. It's at the JMA Wireless, a noon kickoff on Saturday. We're talking with Mike Crispino, the play-by-play voice of UConn. Mike, let's talk about a couple of the players. One guy that stands out to me is a guy we're going to see line up in the backfield, and it's this guy right here, Cam Edwards. What can you tell us about this young man?
Well, he's a Connecticut guy, and his first year at Connecticut, he was nowhere near ready to play on this level. Jim Mora had a heart-to-heart with him, and Jim said he was immature, right? He was a teenager coming onto a college campus. He just wasn't ready to be a contributor on any level that would be significant. So they had that talk, and Edwards kind of came to the realization that if he wanted to be a football player, here's what he had to do. He had to, get in great shape. He had to be 100% focused on, the playbook and all that stuff. And he was able to do it. And he surprised a lot of people. He's an excellent running back. He's a guy that can break runs. He's a guy that can see holes, and he has a great shiftiness to him. And it's been a great surprise because the reason he even got in the lineup 2 years ago was that UConn had terrible injury problems in their backfield. They lost Nate Carter, who eventually ended up going to Michigan State. They lost Victor Rosa to injury, a guy that had scored 10 touchdowns for them in the previous season. So we're talking last year when Edwards stepped into a void, and talk about taking advantage of an opening and an opportunity. He did an excellent job of that. And now he is a guy that is, he's going to get a lot of carries, but he's part of a committee of running backs. That's what UConn has done here under Jim Mora, and I think that's the way to go for them. Because the wear and tear that we saw in the first year and a half for UConn running backs was tough. You couldn't go with one guy or two guys. Now they use three, sometimes four. And I think that throws defenses off a little bit, and it also keeps these guys fresh. And a fresh Cam Edwards is a very dangerous man.
Well, they've got other weapons on offense. I'll move over to the wide receiver position. Let's talk about Skylar Bell, a guy that's getting some preseason accolades.
Yeah, he came from the Big Ten, Wisconsin, and last year, he's caught 50 passes. That was an example of someone coming from a Power 4 conference that wasn't playing much. So he took the chance on UConn. And UConn actually had a young quarterback last year, Nick Evers. He was basically a freshman, but they also had Joe Fagnano, who had come from Maine. Okay, so there's another example of someone coming from a mid-major and succeeding on this level. Fagnano started 7 games. Evers started 6. They found Skylar Bell as an excellent target. And Bell is, with football players, I found motivation is everything. If you are motivated to be great and you take that to the field and the classroom and the weight room every day, that's going to make a big difference. And Skylar Bell, I think when he left the Big Ten and came to UConn, I think he saw that as the last, stage on the road for him. If he didn't make it happen here, where was it going to happen? So anyway, he started to make catches. He had 50 of them last year. And this year he's had a couple touchdowns in the first week. He has become a better player, a bigger player, stronger. He's not an imposing guy, but he's super quick. He sees the openings in the pass patterns. He catches the ball well, and he runs after catch. So he's done some tremendous things in his first year and now in his first game of the second year.
Talking with Mike Crispino, play-by-play voice of UConn. We're inside enemy territory. Today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Play It Again Sports. Let's just take 30 seconds to learn a little bit more about our friends at Play It Again.
Warm weather sports season is here, and if you want to gear up and save money on some of the top brands of golf, soccer, and baseball equipment, and much more, Play It Again Sports can be your solution. With both new and gently used gear, Play It Again has prices way less than regular retail stores. And for all you golfers out there, get some quick money for those clubs you've got stashed away and are collecting dust. Play It Again is always looking for quality gear. No appointment necessary. Just bring it into the store. Play It Again Sports in the DeWitt Town Center on Erie Boulevard. Don't spend more. Play it again. Play It Again Sports. Syracuse.com.
All right, back talking football inside enemy territory, Syracuse and UConn. It's Saturday at noon at the JMA. It's game 2 for the Syracuse Orange. Orange losing their first game against Tennessee. UConn coming off a win, albeit against a lesser opponent. So we get these two teams. And as you mentioned, Mike, Syracuse has had UConn's number in recent days, but I just feel like there's a little bit more to UConn this year coming off that season of last year. One of the things that UConn did effectively last year was scoring points. They had one of the most prolific point scoring years. So tell us about that. And is most of this unit back this year?
Well, they have an offensive line that's got experience, but they not as many starts as a unit as last year's. They lost Chase Lund, they lost Valentin Sen, they lost Christopher Fortin in their offensive line. But the starting offensive line they have this year has got some experience. They made starts last year. So I think that's valuable. They looked pretty good in the game against Central Connecticut. Again, it's Central Connecticut, so we don't know yet what's going to happen come this week. But I think the experience factor is big. They had eight men on their depth chart. 5 of them had major reps last year. So I think that helps. They've improved the tight end room. They had Alex Honig from TCU transferred last year, and he became an excellent help on the tight end level. And then they had Lewis Hansen, who came from Michigan. He was also a factor. And now this year they have added some tight ends as well, which is going to help them, I think, in a big way. Juice Farine is another transfer. Size, speed, giving your quarterback other options to throw rather than just wide receiver. That's been a big factor for them. And they throw to running backs out of the backfield whenever they can. They'll throw to Cam Edwards. He can catch and run. Victor Rosa can do the same. Mel Brown is lightning quick. He came out of Gardner-Webb last year and was, more to start with a punt return or kickoff return guy, but then broke a couple big ones and had a huge touchdown against North Carolina in the Fenway Bowl to start the scoring. So he has become a major factor, a guy that can make things happen. He can break a play for you. So, the team under Jim Mora the first 2 years struggled to score. I think they average around 20, 21 points a game. You can't win college football these days like that. And I said on the air many times that second year, UConn's got to find a way to score 30. Can they get to 30? Because you do that and you give yourself a chance to win pretty much every week. And they started doing that. Joe Fagnano was able to throw the ball around. The wide receivers were catching and running. The running backs, and that was the key too. As you know, if you have a running attack that puts up 200 yards a game, the defense has to honor that. And when they do, it becomes, it opens up your passing game. So running the football under Gordon Sammons, their offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, has been a huge factor for them, because when you're doing that, the defense has got to be on top of it. Otherwise, you just keep running the football, control the game, and end up scoring and end up winning. So that was a big factor for them last year. Yes, scoring has mattered, averaging around 30 points a ball game. And I think they were a top 30 or so team offensively, which is a huge jump from the first couple years when they were in the 120s as an offense.
We're inside enemy territory. We're scouting the UConn Huskies taking on Syracuse this weekend, Saturday, a noon kickoff at the JMA Wireless Dome. Mike Crispino, play-by-play voice of UConn, joining us. Mike, let's flip to the other side of the ball. Let's talk a little bit about UConn's defense. What do they have to offer, and who are the key pieces here that Syracuse needs to be aware of?
Well, I think if the defensive line, and they had to replace all 3 of their defensive linemen, they go 3-4. They run, 3 linebackers, sometimes a safety / linebacker, and they run 3 defensive linemen. Ben Smiley is a transfer, redshirt senior. He wears number 1. Beware of him. He comes off the edge. In the middle, Vincent Carroll Jackson, number 55. He's a sophomore. He's got a future ahead of him. And Stephon Wright is a grad student who's been to, I think, 3 universities already. So he's a very experienced guy. Those guys are really their development's going to be what will, propel UConn if they're going to have a great year. Their linebackers, they've added Taekwon King, who came from Temple. Excellent tackle guy. Obviously, he's a middle linebacker. Brian Parham is another guy, redshirt senior transfer. And these linebackers in that Matt Brock defense are very active. Not so much blitzing and getting after quarterback, but stunting, right? Getting into holes and breaking up plays. And my impression of the defense under Matt Brock is that people love to play for him because you can be aggressive. You don't have to do too much reading. You can get after things. And, defensive players are by nature aggressive anyway.
Right.
So that's worked out well for them. And Donovan Branch came back. He's a safety. He's a senior. He wears number 11. He's going to be very helpful there. And on the corners, obviously, that's important. Devin Pringle is a guy that came from Grand Valley State, played 4 years there, and he is an excellent defender against the pass. And Cam Chadwick was here last year and got some reps as a freshman. He's a redshirt sophomore. He wears number 13. Safeties Lee Millette, Damon Brinson are both seniors, and you get a lot of that these days. In the era we're in now, you get college players that are sticking around for 4 and 5 years, collecting NIL money and making money playing football on the college level. And I think if you do it right, UConn doesn't have the resources that the Orange have, or the Ohio States of the world, or the Alabamas. But if you do it right and you find guys on the way up who still have hopes of doing this professionally, and you are able to compensate them on some level, you can get some hungry players. And I think that's what UConn's been able to do here in the last 2 years.
Well, that's amazing. Roster turnover, what NIL, how that has changed is the transfer portal. I mean, we literally have free agency, Mike, in college football. I mean, it has become more like a pro game than a college game. Has that been your experience? I mean, you've covered both the pros and college. Has college become more like the pros?
Well, I think so. I don't know as much of the inside stuff as maybe you do or some other guys do. Coach doesn't, let on too much about what's going on in terms of dollars and cents, but
Right.
We hear things. We travel, we visit different schools, and we hear, exorbitant numbers being handed out to quarterbacks, 300,000 to this guy and $1 million to that guy, and Arch Manning's worth $6 million, and things
right?
of that nature, right? So you're going to get on the highest levels people running and jumping from place to place. I mean, Garson Beck is a perfect example, right? Georgia, 3 years, all that winning, all that success, and he ends up going to Miami, right? Now, what do you think he did that for? He's trying to make a buck while he can before he runs out of eligibility. So, yes, it is free agency. At some point, I do believe there's going to be some rules and regulation. I don't know when. I think they'd have to let college football players unionize before they could actually impose any kind of sanctions on guys moving around. So that's out ahead of us in the next 5 years probably. But for the time being, yes, we have free agency, like it or not.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. We do. Let me ask you a question about Syracuse. Just kind of switch the script here on you, Mike. What is it? What is the waft out there from someone who's covering UConn? All right. We've faced you guys a lot over the years. What is the waft about what Fran Brown is doing with this program? And is this program, is there a buzz out there about Fran Brown and what he's been able to do? Because sitting right here in my perch, right in central New York, to me, it's been remarkable what he's been able to do and the guys that he's been able to chase and acquire in some cases, both in the portal and in the regular, recruiting world. And this is a guy that's only in his second year here at Syracuse. It seems like he's taken them light years in a really, really short amount of time.
Well, I think he's done a great job there. I mean, 10 wins last year, Holiday Bowl victory over Washington State. A tough schedule this year. I mean, at Tennessee, at Clemson, at SMU, at Georgia Tech, at Notre Dame. I mean, wow. At Miami, that's a tough road to hoe. But I always felt like Syracuse is a premier program. I mean, why wouldn't a guy want to go there to play football? So you have a coach who is a motivator and an inspiring guy, and I think he is. You're going to do well with him. And again, second year, 10 wins, schedule awfully tough this year, but I don't think there should be any problem getting players to play at Syracuse because, I mean, you can get them to come to UConn. It's not a football school. It hasn't been up to this point, really. Syracuse has a great history. So I think they're in great shape with him. You know, you can't jump to too many conclusions in a second year of a guy's career because, well, Jim Mora, for instance, he went from 1 win to 6 right away. First year, we all were shocked, and he won some big games against good teams. And then they lost 3 or 4 one-score games in his second year, and they ended up 3-9. So, well, you said that's a step back, and it was to some degree, but they were probably just as good as they were in his first year. But then the third year, they win 9. So you start to see the formula. And I think with Fran Brown, you're seeing a formula for Syracuse. You can tell by the kind of players that are coming there. That's to me is the real telltale sign. Who's coming there? Why are they coming there? And if they're coming to Syracuse, leaving other places, then it tells you you've got something positive going.
Yeah, they'll take a step back record-wise this year, as you mentioned, because the schedule is just brutal. But I still feel like the program is propelling forward under Brown. We'll see. Obviously, can Syracuse hold on to him for the long term? I mean, it seems like he's very happy here, and he likes his role here. This is his first head coaching job. But, man, he is a mover and a shaker on the recruiting trail, that's for sure. And he seems to convince young men in the portal, too, to come play for this team. I mean, the coup of getting Kyle McCord last year and bringing him here even just for a year was really, really remarkable. And I think we're going to see more of that from Fran Brown in the future. Mike, I can't let you go without talking to you about something that you covered for 20 years. I'm a diehard Knicks fan. You see the little logo up above me here in the corner of my screen. I'm a former season ticket holder of the New York Knickerbockers. Obviously, we've been through some tough times, but man, the corner has turned here a little bit. It's been a fascinating couple of years. And then a coaching change on top of it all at the end of the season after all the successes. Give me I know you kind of look over your shoulder now and then. You must at the New York Knickerbockers. What do you think about what's going on in New York City?
Well, I mean, they finally got a good coach with Tom Thibodeau. I felt, they ran through a bunch of guys, and they didn't have the talent to compete on some levels. But you also need coaching in the NBA, and Thibodeau, his style, his defensive mentality, and his approach to the NBA season, I think was perfect for them. You know, they didn't get by Indiana a couple times now in the last 5 years. Indiana, I think, had a special year last year. They got to the NBA Finals. I don't know how much really a fault of Tom Thibodeau that was. So now they have Mike Brown, and Mike Brown's an experienced NBA guy. He's been to the finals, you know, with the Cavs and been there with the Warriors. So I think, you know, maybe that's the thought process for management. Let's get a guy that's done it. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think they have the makings of a great team, but you know, the league is such that, you know, you can't guarantee you're going to win 55 every year. I mean, get to 50 and you should be happy. And it's what you do in April and May and June. And the Knicks in the last couple of years have gotten deeper and deeper into the playoffs, but they haven't had the team, I don't think, to say, we're going to the finals, we can win this thing. Now, I don't know about this year. This year, new coach, little personnel changes here and there. They maybe have the team that can step it up with the Celtics injury issues and other things that are going on. So, you know, as a guy that spent a lot of years watching a team lose 50 games, winning 50 is sweet. Seeing the sounds of the Garden being what they are and the crowd participation and just the feeling you get being in the Garden, for me, was a lifetime experience, top of the heap sports broadcasting experience. I've been there for UConn. I've been there for college. And it's great too. The Big East tournament is special, but the Knicks, when they're great, you can't beat that. And right now they are at a peak. Let's see if they can take it one more step.
Is it kind of surreal, Mike, to see Rick Brunson's kid as the star of the Knicks? I mean, was he ball boying it around back in the days when you were covering the Knicks? I imagine he was.
He was, yeah.
What do you remember about him? And you're like, wow, how could that kid be the guy right now? Because he is. He's the guy.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And he's not an uber athlete, right? Like Shea Gilgeous, the MVP of the league. He's not like that. He's just a smart, crafty guy. I mean, I think New York basketball fans appreciate that stuff.
Love it.
More than anybody, because that's kind of the That's the MO for New York basketball fans, right? Guys that have the fundamental stuff to make it work. And he's done a tremendous job. I just love his attitude, win or lose. He's built for that 82 game schedule. Is he built for the playoffs to win the whole thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
If he gets enough help, yes. I don't think it can be on his shoulders as much as they put it on his shoulders the last couple of years. I think he needs a partner, and he needs a second partner, on both ends, offense and defense. So they're still steps away, but certainly the Knicks are in a place where you can start talking about great things happening when the season starts in another month.
All right. Mike Crispino, man, such a pleasure. Thanks for reminiscing with me a little bit about the Knicks. I love it. Little walk down memory lane. And awesome just to find out a little bit more about these UConn Huskies. Best of luck to you and your squad on Saturday.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.